Welcome back to the Business of Beauty Global Forum 2025. I'm Imran Ahmed, founder and CEO of the Business of Fashion. Turning on the news or scrolling on social media at the moment can feel a bit disheartening, dystopic, and chaotic. At times, the most powerful, life-affirming parts of the human experience, helping one another and learning from each other, have given way to division, insularity, and isolation. But here at the Business of Beauty Global Forum, we still see value in the threads of connection, of unity, and of togetherness. We see it as a part of our core mission to bridge these divides. That's why we have made our global live stream accessible to everyone watching online. Thank you for joining us. Please let us know where you are joining us from today. You can share your photos, screenshots, and favorite moments using the hashtag BOFBeauty. In our third and final content session, we'll explore beauty's role as a connective thread, pulling us closer together and making us stronger and more resilient. Our first speaker, Varun Soni, is the Dean of Religious Life at the University of California. He has experienced a year filled with personal lows and professional highs. Today, he is here to talk to us about this period of chaos and what he learned firsthand from how his students and the people around him faced tragedy and triumph. Please join me in welcoming Varun Soni.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for inviting me to join you all for this extraordinary summit. My name is Varun Soni, and I'm the Dean of Religious and Spiritual Life at the University of Southern California. Being here at the Business of Beauty as a career academic, I can't help but feel like the class nerd who finally got to hang out with the cool kids at lunch, and that's been very therapeutic in helping me resolve all my high school trauma, so I'm very grateful for that. And attending the summit has also given me a lot of street cred with my wife. In fact, being here is probably good for my marriage, and I need all the help I can get. So for the therapy session and for the marital support, I'm very grateful to all of you. For nearly 20 years, I've been the chief spiritual leader of the University of Southern California. And my congregation is comprised of 70,000 people who represent 140 different countries. In my role, I oversee more student religious groups and campus chaplains than anyone in the United States, right in the heart of Los Angeles, which is the most religiously diverse city in human history. Suffice to say, there's never a dull moment at work. As the university chaplain, I walk alongside students, faculty, and staff in their times of agony and ecstasy, through tragedy and through triumph. And in doing so, I really get to see the soul of the university in a way that no one else does. What I've noticed is that in my thousands of conversations with thousands of people about thousands of topics, mostly what we talk about comes down to one single question. And even though it's such a central question, such a life-defining question, it's not a question that anyone ever asked me growing up. I wish someone had. And so what is that question? The question is, what is your true north? Or as the kids say these days, what is your North Star? Different people will answer the question of true north in different ways at different times in their lives, but ultimately our true north is not the stuff that keeps us up each night. Our true north is what gets us up each morning. We all have stuff that keeps us up at night, especially in this age of anxiety and outrage, but we don't need that stuff. That stuff is totally overrated and completely exhausting. What we really need is something to get us up in the morning. And what gets us up in the morning is what philosophers call purpose, what theologians call the sacred, what businesses call a mission, and what I call true north. A few weeks ago, we celebrated commencement at the University of Southern California, and the experience of our graduating students read like the treatment for a disaster movie trilogy. They started college in the aftermath of a global pandemic, and they ended it in the shadow of the Los Angeles fires. Their college years were literally and biblically bookended by plague and by fire. But all of us went through that, not just graduating students. As we're constantly reminded, we're all living through unprecedented times. And so at a time when so many of us are grappling with despair and disconnection, both at home and at work, how can we calibrate our internal compass to point to our true north? I used to think that if I found the right answers to life's big questions, They would provide me an anchor throughout my life, and that the right answers would somehow get me to my true north. But the answers to life's big questions change over time. Indeed, the answer to life's biggest questions, who am I, should change over time. You should be different at ages 25 and 35 and 45, and unfortunately for my wife, I can keep going with those numbers. That's evolution, that's growth, that's the point of life. And so what I've found over time is that it's not the right answers, but the right questions that give us an anchor across our lifespan, because the answers change while the questions remain the same. And there are three essential questions that we can ask ourselves throughout our lives that I believe can empower us to calibrate our internal compass to point to our true north. I call these questions the 3 T's. I've been thinking about these questions for a while. This is the first time I'm presenting them, so please be gentle. Imagine if you woke up one morning and you had $86,000 in your bank account, and your only job was to spend that money that day. The next day when you woke up, you had $86,000 more, and your bank account kept replenishing with $86,000 each day for the rest of your life. How does that sound to you? Well, my wife and I have 2 kids. We pay California taxes, and our daughter is obsessed with Sephora, and so $86,000 a day sounds great to me right about now. But what if I told you that we all have something more valuable than money that gets replenished every day, something that is in fact the most important asset of our life, and something that we will be able to spend until the day we die? I'm talking, of course, about time. Not all of us will have $86,000 deposited in our bank account each morning, our bank account of money each morning. But all of us do have 86,000 seconds deposited in our bank account of time each morning. Or as I tell young professionals, you might not be cash billionaires, although at the Business of Beauty, you never know, you might be. But you are all time billionaires, meaning you have more than 1 billion seconds left in your life, which is about 32 years. And as a result, you are richer each morning than you will ever be again. We can all make and lose money and make it back again, but we can't do that with time. Once we've spent it, it's gone forever, and that's the reason that time is our most precious asset, because it's our scarcest. No matter how long we live, all of us will die young. While being a centenarian is super impressive, 100 years is still insignificant within the 14 billion year history of the universe. And that's why how we spend and invest our time is probably the most important decision we'll make for ourselves in this lifetime, even more than how we spend and invest our money. And so the first T is time. How do you spend your time? How do you want to spend your time? And how do you close the gap? What can you do to spend your time the way you want to spend your time? In 1938, a group of researchers at Harvard University launched the longest longitudinal study of human behavior ever done, called the Grant Study. I'm not sure if it's still legal to cite research from Harvard University, but here it goes. For the Grant Study, the researchers decided to follow 200 Harvard undergraduates from the time they graduated to the time they died, to study what factors led to human happiness. Over the course of 75 years, the researchers studied everything they could about these Harvard graduates, and what they found was that there was one primary factor that led to human happiness, and it wasn't education or occupation, grades or test scores, salary or celebrity, height or weight, properties or possessions, likes or clicks, or any of the many other things we're told throughout our lives will bring us happiness. Instead, the one factor that Harvard graduates identified at the end of their lives that made them feel as though they lived a life worth living was their deep and loving relationships. Or as the lead researcher of the Grant Study said, after 75 years and $20 million spent, the Grant Study can be summarized in a straightforward 5-word conclusion: happiness is love, full stop. Harvard probably didn't need to spend all that time and all that money to get to that conclusion. It's the same thing the Beatles told us: all you need is love. It's the same thing the Bee Gees asked us: how deep is your love? And it's the same thing we all intuitively feel as human beings. That's because what it means to be human is to have a community, a family, a team, a network. What it means to be human is to have a tribe. And so that's the second T. Who is part of your tribe, and who are your people? I live on the west side of Los Angeles, and there are all sorts of interesting bumper stickers in town. I saw a bumper sticker the other day that read, "My karma ran over your dogma." I love that one, even though I don't know what it means. There's another one that my wife loves a little too much, as it probably reminds her of living with me, which says, "Jesus loves you, but everyone else thinks you're an asshole." But the bumper sticker that is the cheesiest and also the truest is, it's not how many breaths you take, but how many moments you have that take your breath away. In other words, it's not how long you live, but how well you live. We all wear different masks in our life, and as we all have to be different things to different people at different times. In any given week, I play the role of father, husband, son, brother, dean, professor, chaplain, and colleague. But what I've found is that the moments that take my breath away happen when I'm not wearing any masks or thinking about any roles. Instead, those moments happen when I'm moved by beauty. Whether that's in nature or art or music or sports or food or fashion or film or architecture or dance, beauty takes our breath away. Beauty enchants our life and gives us magic. Beauty brings us awe and creates wonder, and ultimately the beauty around us compels us to see the beauty inside of us and in each other. And that's why the work that all of you do as beauty founders, brand ambassadors, and digital storytellers is not just commercial work. It's also spiritual work. It's life-affirming work. It's critical and urgent work because it's the work that takes people's breath away. And that brings us to the third T, transcendence. Transcendence is what we experience in the moments that take our breath away. It's what the American philosopher William James called the ineffable, what spiritualists call a mystical state, and what athletes describe as the zone. The late, great Kobe Bryant once told me that when he was playing basketball and he was in the zone, the game slowed down for him. The basket got bigger, and he started to hear Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in C minor in his head. Once he heard it, he knew that nothing could stop him and that he was only competing against himself at that point. And so he played for those moments. He played to hear Beethoven. A few years later, Steph Curry told me that when he's playing basketball and he's in the zone, he's not thinking about himself or anything else. When he's in the zone, his jump shot is an act of pure devotion. And when he's hitting every shot from every angle and every corner of the floor, as the greatest shooter of all time, there is no shooter. There's only shooting. Believe it or not, Kobe, Steph, and I have a lot in common. Between the three of us, we've won 9 NBA championships. And so I know exactly what they mean when they talk about being in the zone. For me, that doesn't happen on the basketball court, but rather it happens in the space between my thoughts. It happens on a hike, or on my bike, or at the beach, or at a concert, or while doing breath work with Manoj, or when I catch a fleeting and unexpected moment with my kids. It happens when I'm not thinking about work or home or anything or anyone. It's an experience beyond words, beyond description, beyond duality. In the age of disconnection, it's the experience of connection. At a time of isolation, it's the experience of oneness. That's not a place where we can really live. None of us can live in the zone or reside in the space between our thoughts. We all have to live in the world and make our place and way here. But it is a place we can visit and should visit. Because at the end of our lives, we won't remember all the work we did or all the accolades we achieved or all the money we made. Instead, we'll remember all the moments that took our breath away and wish we had prioritized them more. And so let's not wait until the end of our lives. Let's make those memories and have those experiences right now. The Jesuit theologian Pierre Teilhard de Chardin famously said, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." That means that at our core, we are spiritual, and one of the ways to stay connected to our spiritual core is to have a spiritual practice. I believe that embracing the 3 T's of time, tribe, and transcendence can be a powerful spiritual practice at a time when we all need it most. And asking 3 simple questions: how do I spend my time? Who are my people? And what takes my breath away? Can help us calibrate our internal compass to point to true north. Because how we spend our time tells us a lot about what matters to us. Who we hang out with tells us a lot about our values. And what takes our breath away tells us a lot about ourselves. Earlier this year, like many people I know and love, my family was displaced by the Palisades fire. And we've spent the last few months wandering, both physically and spiritually, trying to regain a sense of home. When it happened, it was devastating, and I couldn't find any meaning at all in the fires. I couldn't honestly tell myself or my kids that there was a reason for all this pain and destruction, and I really struggled with that. But what I soon discovered was that even though I couldn't find meaning in it, I could make meaning out of it. I couldn't control the situation, but I could control my reaction to the situation, my perception of the situation. And the way I did it was to embrace time, tribe, and transcendence in my life. I went from preacher to practitioner, and I gave myself permission to focus on what really matters to me and why, and that made all the difference for me, and I hope it does for you too. In closing, as a professor, I believe that I am contractually obligated to end this talk with a homework assignment, and so here it is. I have found that one of the ways I can bring the 3 T's together in my life is by doing something I love with someone I love. When I do that, I'm spending time with my people doing something that takes my breath away. And so, your homework assignment for this week and for the rest of your weeks is simple. Do something you love with someone you love, because that's probably the closest formula for happiness that we'll ever have as fully realized human beings. Thank you again for all the inspiring work that you do, for inviting me here, for making me cool at home, and please take good care of yourselves and others. Fight on, everyone.
As we just heard, earlier this year, the US faced one of its greatest natural disasters. We were all rocked by the news of wildfires spreading across Los Angeles. Many of you, I'm sure, like me, were watching in horror as people lost their homes, their livelihoods, and communities to the fires. We just heard about the same from Varun, about how this devastation affected him. But our next guests were also watching it happen with their own eyes. Yvonne Pohl of The Beauty Sandwich, Stacey Cunningham of Silhouette Hair Studio, Amy Liu of Tower 28, and Sheena Zadeh from Kosas all had their homes or businesses destroyed in the Palisades or Altadena, two of the hardest hit neighborhoods by the fires. In the days, weeks, and months that followed, each of them had to find the strength to rebuild. To share their stories, please welcome Yvonne, Stacey, Amy, and Sheena to the Global Forum stage.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sheena. I'm the founder of Kosas. I am joined on stage today with Amy Liu of Tower 28, Stacey Cunningham from the Silhouette Hair Studio, and Ivan Pohl of The Beauty Sandwich. This is an emotional conversation. It's a conversation about resilience, and resilience does take some time to show its face, because I think in those early days we were very much in survival. So I lost my home in the Palisades fire as well. I'm sitting here on stage, not next to you guys, but with you, because I'm part of the story as well. So I'm holding the space for us to have this discussion of how you moved from survival, from the initial moments of survival, into resilience, which is where we are today. So the first question that I have is for all of you, because we really want to understand what happened and what your state of mind was when we were going through this catastrophic natural disaster in our homes, in the homes of your businesses that you've built for more than 20 years. Can you walk us through what it was like in the immediate aftermath for your businesses, for your teams, and what practices and mindsets, and how did you actually stay grounded? How did you survive in those early days?
I mean, for me, it was, it was a surreal moment. It was my birthday. So I opened my business 6 years ago. I started The Beauty Sandwich. I gave myself the ultimate gift on my birthday, which was founding my brand and building the spa of my dreams. And it burned exactly that same day, 6 years later. So it was extremely emotional to kind of see the thought of this dream crumble. But what really kept me grounded was, the thought of skin tension, like the talk before me. Staying grounded in your dreams. There's so many founders here, so many creators. I'm, on the stage with founders and creators. Our love of beauty, my passion for beauty is what kept me grounded in that moment and gave me my resilience and snatched me to continue on, so I am able to deliver, my message to the world.
Have you made any meaning of the dates and the starting of your birthday and having it end on that same day, now that you have some distance from it?
It is everything in life. I say it's love, beauty, energy, right? Love is the fruit of everything, but it was that energy. I think it was the closing of that chapter for me. And for me to realize that, yes, this was a beautiful space and it was the beginning, but it was not the end for me. It was the beginning of a new chapter.
Thank you. Stacy.
Yes, for me, it was shocking, obviously. I really didn't know how to feel. Even now, I haven't really processed it. I just jumped right back into work, like a week later. I found a new place to work, and I just jumped right back in because that was my therapy, and that's what I needed to get through. And my clients and the community, everyone just showed up for me. So I've just been going along and along.
And you work in a really personalized field.
Yes.
Where you're really touching people. You built your business in a physical community.
Yes.
And that community held you. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it was like with your community in those early days?
Yes, they really came, they showed up. My clients, they're like my family, so we're really close. Businesses, local distributors that I use a lot all the time, they've come through and always give me words of encouragement. I actually went back to a salon that I started working, my very first salon I worked at when I got out of beauty school, over 30 years ago. So I went back there to work temporarily until we rebuild or the next step. But people just showed up, showed out, was there. So I really have no complaints. It's been hard, but good.
It's a really difficult and scary way to have to experience and learn how much people actually love you.
Yes. And I didn't know until, I knew, but I didn't know until this happened. Clients that I haven't seen in years showed up, called, sent text messages, just dropped money in my Zelle account. And I haven't done them for many years.
Yeah.
But they seen it on the news. And so they came through.
And I think that says a lot about you.
Yes, thank you.
Amy.
Hi. God, I looking at this picture, I haven't looked at any of these types of pictures in a minute, and I think when I got up here and I saw it, I was like, so to be clear, I lived in the Pacific Palisades. If this was my street, my house would be like right off the picture because my house is standing, but the rest of my street is devastation. So I live on a street that kind of goes up and down, and then we live at the kind of the peak of the hill, and there are 5 houses that are standing, and mine are one of them. So directly to my left, the house is standing. Directly to the right, there was nothing but a chimney. So the house is unlivable, and has lead and all kinds of things that make it unlivable, but really it is, the community is just not there anymore. So, and to rewind, we bought our house. It's hard to buy a house in LA. It's expensive. We didn't buy our house until I was 39 years old. It was our first home. We didn't get any help. And we bought like a 1950s original, and we remodeled it and did it like on a budget. We really bootstrapped it, and it was the first time I had done something like this, where I'd done something where I just had no idea how to do it, right? Like I was hiring structural engineers, and I was like, what does that mean? And they were asking me, I didn't know what a doorstop did. I was like, what? I need one of those? Like it just was all of these things I had never done. And in a lot of ways, I thought of it as this, and I had a small budget, and I was trying to make it work. And this house kind of symbolized for me this thing that I did that I didn't know how to do before. And it really gave me the confidence to, I think, start Tower 28 in the end. Because it was this like visual symbol of something that I had tried and was, successful with. And so then, and I raised my kids there. I have 3 kids. They're 16, 14, and 10. This is what they understand to be their home. Like they don't know, they don't remember the condo that we lived in before that. They went to the neighborhood schools. We were really part of the community. And when the fire happened, I was at home. And the first thing I did was I swooped up my daughter because she was nearby. My son and other daughter were far, so it wasn't so pertinent. And we left, and it took an hour. It took a few hours to just get like a few miles, right? Like I live maybe a mile and a half away from PCH, and it took a really long time. And it was really scary. And this is going to make it sound even more dramatic, but it's true. But this is the second fire I've lived through. So the first, we rented a house a long time ago, and that house burned down after living there for 1 week. So this is my second time of having gone through this. The first time I lost everything, as Sheena has, like all of my personal belongings, everything I owned, every photo, everything. This time, we did not lose our home. We lost our community. And I will tell you, it's worse. This time, like, you know, my kids have lost my daughter's school was the one that the New York Times kept flashing on all of the, you know, pictures because her school burned down, and it was very dramatic because you could see the sign but nothing behind it. And I had all the same experiences you did, and I'm just reliving it right now because I haven't thought about it honestly. But people I didn't know text me from, or like people I haven't talked to since high school sometimes, which, guys, it's been a while. So like people were texting me that like 30 something years ago, and I was like, what, you have my phone number? And so there was this groundswell of people who like your community, and I think this is a word we keep hearing, the community shows up for you in a way that you're like, wow, I didn't know that was even there, and it feels so good. And then it's interesting because now I'm sitting here and thinking about it, I'm like, it kind of, I think for most people it's like something that happened a while ago, and it doesn't really impact, nobody thinks about it that much anymore. So yes, all to say, how did I cope with it? I think much like what you guys said, I think and maybe this is like being a founder, an entrepreneur, or any business person, I just jumped into doing. That was kind of my thing, and I immediately like found us a place to live, went to Target and bought plates and silverware and did all of those things. My husband, ironically, did something very different. He decided to go and buy bikes and skateboards. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, we need beds to sleep on. And he was like, we live in Venice now. I need a bike. I was like, what? So like men and women, I think, I don't know, or maybe just him and me did things really differently. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was a really long-winded answer. I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
I really rambled.
It is, I think like one of the things that people ask me all the time is, has your relationship to things changed?
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things we heard over and over in that moment is, well, you're safe, it was things.
Yeah.
And there is a level of truth to that, of course, and it's not about the things. My relationship to things did change. They mean more to me now than they ever did before.
Yeah.
Because the things represent the map of the life that I lived.
Yeah.
And at least those memories aren't gone. And what I have learned in that process is that I built that map to begin with, which means I know how to do that. I have the map of the map inside of me. I know how to build the map again. Yeah. That's the resilience piece of it. Because I think in the early days, the absolute pure and utter survival shock. I personally did not buy a thing because I was too scared to carry something with me from one place to the next place because I didn't know where I was going to end up. And that piece of the community, losing our community, has been absolutely the hardest thing, because when you have that thought in your mind, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
That's what we mean when we say, I just want to go home. I just want to go home back to my people. I want to see my neighbors.
Yeah.
I want to say hi to that guy.
It's
I don't
like your
even know his name.
barista, right? Like the guy that you go see coffee.
All of it.
You're like everyone.
All of it. Ivan, for you, the beauty sandwich. I think what you do is one of the closest forms of human connection. It's incredibly intimate to be touching somebody and to be in the business of body image, which I think all of us are in. It's a very revealing conversation. It's very vulnerable for people. How have you been connecting with your clients, with your community, in that intimate space, knowing what you've been through ever since the fires?
I'm connecting more than ever. Just like you were saying, people reached out to me, an outpouring, response of love, more than ever. People, told me about that they came to my spa 5 years ago, 3 years ago. That connection, right? That lives on, and it really has allowed me to relive the memories as opposed to reliving, the tragedy of this all. But, human connection is everything. We are made of energy. That energetic exchange that we have, those moments, that's what we take with us, right? The community may be gone, but those moments that we shared, when I moved to Los Angeles 6 years ago, I didn't know anyone. This community opened itself up to me. The Palisades, with open arms, took me in. So I was more devastated for everyone around me than I was for myself, because so many people lost their homes, their businesses, their, even members of their family. What I had there, I could rebuild. So what keeps me going is that connection that I have with my clients. They keep me, grounded in my mission, which is to, it's that connection of snatching your skin and your spirit. That's what keeps us going.
Yeah.
That's the message. Human connection.
And will you rebuild?
I will rebuild, absolutely. I have 2 other locations, New York and Miami, where I'm from. But, I founded this brand in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is my home. It's what I call home. It was the birth of this brand. So I will rebuild. I've been fortunate enough to find a new space, and it's important for women to have that safe space again, because that's the number one thing that I heard was, I felt so safe in the space that you created. So I need to definitely continue with that message so that we can all feel, seen, heard, but absolutely safe.
My guess is it's you that brings the safety to the space. So
Thank you.
I have no
Thanks
doubt
so
you'll
much.
be doing that again. You mentioned LA. Here's a question for you guys. Did you ever think about leaving LA?
I never considered it. I mean, I built a brand or kind of around the, visual aesthetic of LA too, and Tower 28 is named after a lifeguard tower in LA, and I never thought about leaving it. Literally, again, that buzzword community, but it's true. I think that's, at the end of the day, it's where your friends and family and your people are, and that's what it is for me.
Yeah, no, never thought about leaving. That's my home. I love it. I love the area I was in, Pasadena, Altadena area. I would never consider leaving. So.
It's magic. LA is magic. The topography. I never thought about leaving, even though I have 2 other places to go. It's where I built this brand, and it's where the brand will continue.
And there are so many beautiful places in the world. Don't get me wrong, I've thought about leaving LA many times over the course of my life. But until this happened, actually, because what I realized through this situation was how much I needed people, how badly and desperately I needed my friends, my family, and we're lucky enough to, I grew up in Southern California. That's where everyone was.
Yeah.
Leaving LA would mean leaving the people, and that is the thing that would be really, really difficult to tolerate. Amy, you mentioned that you really jump into action, and you really did. You did a lot in the aftermath. You organized the LA Fire Community Support Event. You organized 150 brands. You donated 70,000 pieces of product to 1,500 impacted families. I was watching you. You were out there. We appreciate you. What made you jump into action? Because honestly, I was just flattened. I could not believe my eyes.
Yeah. So I was watching like all of you were, and I saw people, and it was so kind. People were posting these kind of where donations were, old blankets and water and really disaster relief type gifting, and I feel like I know the community that I live in, and I was like, these people want new things. They want suitcases. They want makeup. They want beauty. And I feel like I am uniquely privileged to be in a position where I know a lot of people, including many of the people in this room. And actually, Molly Sims from Wise is here too. And she sprang into action with me on this. But it was me and Jenna Jackson, who some of you know, and Molly. And we all kind of got on a group text, and we were talking about this, and I was like, I feel like we could put together a gifting suite. What if we just asked a few people? And I called my landlord in my office, and I said, I know that 4th floor is open. could I use that 4th floor and do a gifting suite? And she said yes. But she didn't realize how much product was coming. And then we started getting the boxes, and we didn't coordinate, to be clear. All of us just started texting people, and we're like, hey, you wanna send? You wanna send? And we just started sending our address to people. Oh my God. So I wasn't planning on doing 70,000 pieces of product, but that is what we ended up doing. I had to hire an event planner who actually did it pro bono, and we had to move everything from my office to an event space because it became this huge thing. But in the end, it was so worth it because these people who had been displaced really just felt like it was an opportunity not just to get things, but to see each other. And we actually had a whole space that was just about like, we had ice cream and food and whatever that people had donated. And it was there just for people to be in community and to see each other after this happened, because there was no literal physical spot to do that. And honestly, I think I got a lot more out of it than anyone else did, because it was just so, and my team got to, and as soon as this happened, my team was like, what can we do, what can we do, what can we do? And I was like, you can do your job. That's what you could do for me right now. Like, you could really help me by taking care of everything, because I need a minute. And they did. And then I think it feels good to do something, though. Sometimes we all feel so helpless. Like right now, I'll be honest, I feel really helpless with everything going on in LA right now. And when you feel helpless, and that's why I think it's so nice to be able to like reach out and help other people, you want to do something. And that was my version of it, is I just want, and I think it felt good for my team, it felt good for other teams to kind of come together and be able to just do something together. But again, that is the power of community.
I so agree. It is the opposite of feeling helpless. I think that what I was getting frantic calls from people just begging desperately, please tell me something that I can do.
Yeah, well, you
Please.
feel like a loss of like agency, right? Like you're so not in control. Like, I'm not in control of where I live right now. I'm not in control of what I'm wearing, right? I was taking in, even like my clothes, I was just taking, people were giving me, they're like, I was about to donate this. Do you want this bag? And I had all these like random clothes of things. And I was like, it just nothing was to your own body. It was nothing of choice. And so the way even we set up the gifting suite was by choice. It was like, okay, here are a few bags, fill it up as much as you want in a suitcase. You can take whatever you want. And whatever fits inside of these like big totes or whatever in the suitcase. And that was how we did it, because we wanted people to choose. And they want to just hand them something. And I think that there's something in that is really important in terms of agency.
There's dignity in it, I think, having the ability to have something and be able to choose. Thank you for this conversation, guys. This has been incredible. I really appreciate you sharing with me and being here with me and sharing with our community. This is a very small community that I feel really lucky to be a part of, honestly. It's just so wonderful to see everyone's faces here and be up here and having this conversation. So thank you all. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Sydney Towle is a content creator, a travel enthusiast, an animal lover, and a life on social media that feels bold, happy, and free. She's also a young woman battling stage 4 bile duct cancer and has been subject to an online smear campaign that has accused her of lying about her health and well-being. Next up, Sydney will chat with BOF's Brendan Kilbane about the disinformation effect and how creating trust in science and wellness and health is mandatory. Please welcome Sydney and Brendan to the stage.
Sydney Towle.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
So not so long ago, you were a Dartmouth college student, and then a little bit more recently, you became one of the most talked about influencers, perhaps, of the year. But I want to take it to a pre-TikTok era. Tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up with social media. What was your relationship to it as a young person? What were you watching and reacting to?
Yeah, growing up on social media pre-TikTok, I think was very different.
Right.
We took social media very, I think, a lot less serious. Everything we shared, I remember on Instagram, I would just post like a bag of Doritos and be like, oh, snack time. You know, like it was very casual. It was not anything crazy. But I watched a lot of beauty YouTubers, and I grew up in a fairly low-income household, so I couldn't afford those products or those, you know, designer things that people were doing clothing hauls of. But so it was kind of like a sense of escapism as I was watching. And it's funny now because I film Get Ready With Me content, and I get to work with amazing brands, a lot of which are in this room. But that's never something that I could have imagined doing when I was younger. But growing up, I always knew that I wanted to do something to create change. I didn't know what that was, but I remember in elementary school, you know, they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I vividly remember I wanted to be the first female president, which is still possible, I guess.
That's true. That's true.
Crazy enough. And so then I went on to Dartmouth and I became a political and environmental science double major. And I always wanted to do something to change the world. I just didn't know what it was. And now, unironically, I have something that I am doing that I have purpose for.
Well, let's talk about that too. So you joined TikTok in 2022, I believe?
2019, when COVID hit.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. What was your aim there? Were you trying to build an audience, or was it just kind of more Doritos, snack time sort of vibes?
Exactly. No, I was not. I've never intended to build an audience. It's always just kind of happened, I guess, organically. When I first joined, it was when COVID hit, and I was in college, and we all got sent home from school, and I think like a lot of people during the time, felt very alone and isolated. So I just posted silly videos on TikTok, just like dancing, lip singing, like whatever was popular at the time. And now it's obviously turned into something.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because I feel like you, amid all of this, you received a life-changing cancer diagnosis. Tell me about the decision to kind of bring your followers in on that, and then tell me a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, so in 2023, at the age of 23, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cholangiocarcinoma, which is a very rare and aggressive form of cancer that originates in your bile ducts. Mine had spread to my liver, and by the time I was diagnosed, there was an 11-centimeter tumor in my liver. So I went through 6 months of chemo, then had a surgery to remove 80% of my liver, my gallbladder, and then resumed chemo, and I'm still on chemo in New York City now. But it was never a decision in my mind. I'd been sharing on TikTok already, and it's kind of been a documentation for me. Every single time I receive news, I just film myself talking about it, and then I post it. Actually, on the flight here, I got my most recent CT scan results that showed that chemo's not working, and that the tumors have been growing again.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So it's always just been me sharing, and every time I do share, I receive comments. Like one I got last week was from a mom, and she said, I'm so sorry you're feeling down right now, but just so you know, I got a mammogram because of your videos, and I caught my breast cancer early. Wow. So it's things like that that make me like, okay, it's all like, I'm finding meaning within it, in purpose. And I don't believe that everything happens for a reason, because a lot of terrible things happen in the world, but I think that you can control only your reaction, not what happens to you. So that's what I'm trying to do. Yes.
Well, let's talk about that reaction too, because I feel like as you've been getting this outpouring of support, you also got this multitude of snark in your direction. Yes. What do you think that came from, and how did you respond to it?
Yeah, so I became aware of the Snark page in November, around December of last year.
The Snark page is on Reddit, right?
Yes. So Snark page is basically a page dedicated to hating someone. And when my brother told me that, he said it casually. I think he already assumed I knew.
Oh, God.
And I was like, what do you mean a snark page? I had just had chemo that week, and I was like, how? I just share my journey. I show me going to chemo, every
Right.
week. Like, what is, how do people find hate in that? And then I went on it, obviously. I wish I hadn't, but I think we're all subject to curiosity. Went on it and saw that it was dedicated to saying, one, that I was lying about my diagnosis because I have hair and I was going out and I was traveling and living a relatively normal life. And then two, because I was too optimistic or I was too positive, which I didn't know that you could find criticism in.
Right.
So I was really shocked
Yeah.
seeing that, and then I felt like I needed to prove myself in some way, which sucks
Right.
because it's like I'm already showing myself going to chemo every week. I'm already going to chemo every week, and now there are people who are, dedicated to proving that I, in fact, not doing those things. So I actually filmed a video that I didn't post, and it was me going through all of my medical records, like showing it to the camera.
Yeah.
I decided not to post it, and then the next day, a New York Times reporter reached out, Katie Rossman, and she said, "I'm really interested in this story. I would love to be able to share your truth."
Yeah. Why did you say yes? Let's do it.
Yeah, I don't feel like you should have to necessarily prove yourself online, especially in this situation. But I do understand the skepticism, especially with Scamanda and apple cider vinegar. There has been a recent wave of people posting misinformation online. But I didn't necessarily want to do it for myself. I also wanted to do it for all of the other people that still have their hair and are going to chemo, that are traveling every other week, on their off weeks. And that are living relatively normal social lives while dealing with chronic illness or cancer.
Yeah. I feel like the New York Times story came out in April, and it was one of those like blockbuster stories that everyone's reading and talking about and sharing. Has anything changed since then? Have you noticed? I mean, I believe that in response to the New York Times, the snark page was shut down.
It was shut down.
Yes, that was the ending of the
Thankfully,
story.
yes.
A very triumphant ending. But how has it been since that story and since your story has been shared a little bit more?
Yeah, it's been very positive, very overwhelmingly positive. I've definitely noticed no more like skeptic comments, obviously, because my doctor spoke in the article and he shared my diagnosis and my treatment and everything, which I think kind of shut the case. But I've also noticed an overwhelming amount of messages and comments, saying, I'm dealing with the same criticism as you from family members, from friends saying, "Oh, you don't look sick," and it's like that's not a compliment. We're all going through something.
Right.
It's not always visible, and you should always lead with empathy, regardless of whether someone is going through something or not.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit more about this misinformation, disinformation, which is sort of the theme of our talk and today, in a way. We're living certainly in this greater moment of science skepticism, sort of these facts of science being debated at the highest levels of government and society. Does this sort of climate feel at all related to the response that you received, or does it feel different entirely?
I think everything is related in some sense, especially with politics. But I think that it makes sense to always have some level of skepticism. Like, I think there's healthy skepticism and then there's cynicism.
Right.
And I think that you should approach anything that you see online with healthy skepticism, because people post whatever they want now and people make a lot of claims. But I think that with healthy skepticism, you have to be open-minded to other evidence, and the people online on Reddit were not.
Yeah.
So I do think it is somewhat related, but I think that's just the world that we're living in, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also feels like female influencers especially are targeted by these like snark pages. It doesn't
Yes.
seem like it's not an equal opportunity snark thing. It feels like young women, especially moving to New York, I think kind of puts
Yes.
you in a bigger spotlight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it was interesting because a lot of the people using the snark page were older women. So I don't quite understand the dynamic, but I was also interested in that. And I also noticed that it normally is younger women being targeted by the hate pages. So not quite sure why,
Right.
but I hope that with the article and as more attention is brought to like issues like this, people can understand that you should maybe lead with more kindness and not hostility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As misinformation is rampant, but we're also in this culture where we have any sort of health question, we're immediately Googling it, or we're going online and trying to get that quick answer. Is there any sort of way that you recommend people go about finding medical information that is either online, on social media, or some other, talk to your doctor?
I was going to say, talk to your doctor.
Yes, of course. Have a real life conversation with a physician.
Exactly, because as soon as you start to Google symptoms online, especially on TikTok now, people will respond with crazy claims. When I first had symptoms, it said I had a hernia, which is definitely not the same as cancer. But I had the same physical symptoms as a hernia, a bulge, pain in my abdomen, and that clearly was not the case. And if I listened to WebMD or Reddit or TikTok, then I wouldn't have gone to the doctor and actually gotten checked out and an MRI and my diagnosis. So I think that if you have any sort of inclination in your mind that something might be wrong, you should definitely go to the doctor, because TikTok cannot diagnose you.
Absolutely.
No matter how many times they try to tell you
Right.
what you're dealing with.
I know, and it kind of, to go along with that, it feels like there's more actual physicians, getting on social media. It's becoming a lot more crowded. We have a lot of brands in the room that are on social, a lot of influencers like yourself. I'm curious, do these people who gather in these public online forums have a responsibility to champion the truth, in your opinion?
Yes, I think so. I think influencers and brands both do have a responsibility to champion the truth, especially in this age of misinformation and where you can't trust the government even with what's going on. I think that we are the only ones who can lead to change and who can hold people accountable and the people in power accountable. And brands have the money, consumers have the money, so wherever you're directing the money is where decisions are going to be made. And I think as influencers, we have a huge range of people that we can reach and interact with. And so it's our responsibility to stick to the truth as far as we can. I never claim to be a medical professional online, and I say that in a lot of my videos. I say, I am not a doctor, please consult your doctor, but this is my experience. And I think people come to me not for medical knowledge, but for a sense of connection. And that is what I've always tried to do, is establish a sense of connection, never spread medical information. But in doing that, I think that it does lead to more awareness and to people going to the doctors and actually, seeking out a source of truth.
Yeah. I mean, earlier you spoke about, you kind of seeking an escape and that sort of connection online with some of the other creators that you were following, and now you're able to be that, offer that connection to others.
Yes.
I feel like if any of this happened to me or anybody in the audience, I would shut down all of my accounts and, head for the hills. But I guess why stay on social media? Why not shut it all down and say, like, you know what, you guys mistreated me, I'm done?
I thought about it.
Yeah?
I thought about it very strongly at first. I was like, I called my mom when I saw the Reddit page. I said, why did I do this? Why did I ever share anything online? And then she said, you know why? It's because you're helping people. And then I post a video and I see all of the comments of people saying, you're helping me better understand my diagnosis. You're helping me better understand my mother's diagnosis or what my friend is going through. And then I realized that's why I'm doing this. You can't be bullied offline by hate, because there will always be people who dislike you. Not everyone is going to like you, and that's something that I've had to realize over time, because I'm a chronic people pleaser. So it's really difficult when people don't like me. But when you have X amount of followers, you're bound to have, some percentage of people that don't agree with everything that you're saying or doing.
Yeah.
And if my criticism is being too positive or living my life too fully, then I don't think that's the worst criticism to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about like this moment forward. I know that you have a day job as well, but you're continuing your career of influence. Are you changing at all what you share, or?
I thought about changing what I share. I thought about pulling back and not revealing as much, but I think, again, that vulnerability is a superpower, and I think that in sharing everything, me crying online, it is helping people in some way. It's also therapeutic for me as well. And so I'm going to continue posting all of that content, and I do have a day job. I don't think I'll ever give up having a day job. I say that now, but we'll see. But I like having some stability and sense of structure throughout my day. And influencing for me, or creating content, is something that I do as like my purpose and something for fun. I don't do it to make money or for any sort of other external success other than helping other people. So if I'm continuing to help people, then I'm going to continue posting.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for sharing here with us, Sydney.
Thank you for having me.
So now we're going to talk about a different kind of connection. What is it about today's trending brands that ignite shoppers to become loyal fans, and perhaps even lifelong customers? Our next group of speakers have managed to intuit what beauty shoppers want, sometimes before they even know themselves. Please welcome some of beauty's buzziest founders. From Australia, Ava Matthews of SPF brand Ultraviolet. You guys can clap. From Korea, Sumin Lee of Beauty of Joseon. And from Scotland, Mark Elric of skincare brand Bioma. They will be joined by BOF's Liz Flora. Please welcome to them the global stage.
Welcome, everyone. Going on a more light note now, Sumin, when we first spoke last year, you told me your annual revenue went from $83,000 in 2020 to a projected $250 million in 2024. Beauty of Joseon is 7 years old, and the growth came after a rebrand. How did you revamp the brand into what it is today?
Yes, we did a complete rebrand from the first beginning of starting. And when I first created Beauty of Joseon at the first place, I wanted to create a skincare brand that is gentle and effective like everyone else who founded their brand, but deeply rooted in Korean culture, what I experienced from my younger age. And I inspired by Hanbang, which is traditional Korean herbal medicine, and how the Hanbang ingredients like ginseng, rice, green plum have been carried for centuries. And as growing up as an ordinary Korean girl, I still remember my mom saving water after cleansing rice so I can cleanse my face with that. And also, we sometimes take ginseng to make that energy when we're lack of energy and everything. So yeah, those kind of experience that I had really inspired me to deliver to the world how those ingredients and beauty wisdom, the beauty wisdom from Joseon Dynasty are amazing, and even through the lens of modern science. And also the second thing is the SPF, obviously. We got that viral moment from TikTok like 2 years ago, and everyone was so happy with our formulation and texture that is so lightweight and breathable without leaving white cast, which is so crucial for SPF. And yeah, those two things, like we're deeply rooted in Korean culture, and the SPF formulation, those two are the main things what made us became what it is today.
And Mark, since launching in 2022, you've also seen fast growth with a $200 million revenue projection this year. What do you think were the biggest drivers of this growth in such a short time?
200 million. Is that what I'm worth? Husband, where's my money? Byoma was really built around addressing a true consumer need. The consumer's overwhelmed at every single touch point, and our core target consumer, Gen Z, is, as a result of that, overtreating, overusing, overexfoliating, playing chemist in their bathrooms, and that's why we're ultimately on a mission to change that and to empower people to make smart and informed educated choices. Skin barrier health is our North Star and a subject that we're incredibly passionate about. But I think what's made Byoma so successful is a combination of delivering serious science in a not so serious way. I believe that serious skincare doesn't need to be so serious, right? And there was literally a lot of white space within a very sterile, clinical, and homogenous white space, and I'm not a very bland person. But I also think community really informed and inspired everything that we do, so it's this combination of science, community, and education that has helped us achieve what we've achieved.
And Ava, you're focused specifically on sunscreen. It's such a hot category right now with so many startups. What has it taken for your brand to capture consumers' interest?
I mean, when we launched 6 years ago, it was the prestige sun category didn't exist really. You know, in Australia, we didn't have Supergoop, so it was a bit of a wasteland when we launched. And now, of course, it's very buzzy. But I think when you do one category, you have to do it really, really well. And I think with sunscreen specifically, the consumers, I don't know, for some reason they're like so passionate about sunscreen, but then they will turn on you if you get it wrong, which, you know, it is really, really easy to do in a category like sunscreen. So I think, you know, as a brand, we've been really laser focused on two things. So product, really excelling in our product. And, you know, I think as a business, we really pride ourselves on the innovation in our range, and also brand. And I think, you know, being from Australia, we have a really nice, strong brand story. We have a very clear visual tone of voice. We like to have a bit of fun in what is a pretty stale, boring category. It's kind of hard to sexy up sunscreen, but, you know, I think we're doing it.
So your brands are all over TikTok. What's the playbook for finding that viral spark? Sumin, I'm sure everyone here wants to hear the Beauty of Joseon's story.
Yeah, I still remember that period of time that we got the first viral moment on TikTok, and it was not only on TikTok, it was on all over on social media like Instagram and YouTube. And I was on the phone all day long calling to the manufacturer to add more production line to keep up, and they were like, I was definitely feel the vibe that they're thinking we're crazy because we were just a small brand, and they were like, I did feel their skeptical vibe, and I even tried to find their CEO, the email address of CEO, and sent a long email that we are so desperate to keep up with this huge demand, because I remember it was mentioned during the session, when there's no stock available, that viral doesn't have any meaning, right? So I think what made us go viral is because of the texture and finish, obviously, because everyone had a huge expectation about Korean SPF, and that SPF we made at the moment use the newest innovative filters at the moment that feels super lightweight. It's breathable and blendable under makeup. It didn't leave any white cast. So I think people genuinely surprised and started to upload so many contents on their social media channel. So many people ask me, how did you get that, viral? How did you manage to, make that happen? But it was like totally organic. So I feel so grateful and lucky to have that viral.
And Mark, we're seeing Bioma in almost every major influencer's Get Ready With Me videos. You also have a really big retail presence. What do you think are the most important factors for widespread brand awareness?
Yeah, now I know where the 200 million's gone. I think from a TikTok perspective, it starts with product, right? We actually spend more money on clinical trials than we do on influencer marketing. So it really starts with understanding the customer. What do they want? What do they need? And finding ways, unique ways to connect with them. I often say to my team, I think direct to community is the new D2C. And it's finding deep, meaningful ways to connect. So since launching, we've hosted over 1,000 in real life events, between retail pop-ups, between retail activations, immersive experiences. We're really committed to meeting our consumer wherever they're at. And what we're seeing now is the lines between physical and digital blurring. So for me, what's really critical is connecting with the community as frequently as possible in the most authentic way, but also in the most disruptive way.
Let's talk about the state of skincare overall. Some of the bigger players are seeing a slowdown. What does that mean for indie brands? Ava, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's an opportunity for a young brand to kind of stand out and be a bit more agile. I think that's kind of been the benefit for Ultraviolet, where in a lot of markets globally, we're in 30 different countries, which is too many if you ask me. But I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of do things differently and move faster, and we've definitely seen that with our product. We're one of the very few brands, I think we're probably the only sunscreen brand that we've reformulated our products for each market that we're in. And I think being a small team has allowed us to do that. We've got a really great NPD team in the business. We've got regulatory in the business. And I think, for us to be able to, not quickly launch into a market like the US, because it did take some time, but to kind of pick up our formulations in Australia and kind of quickly adapt to be able to launch, globally has been a real advantage for us. So I think, our nimbleness and our agility is definitely an advantage for us. And I think, as a privately owned small brand, we can get away, and in a category like sunscreen, we can get away with saying things that the bigger brands can't, and we can really, put our stake in the ground and have a real opinion on. I guess there's if you understand sunscreen, there's a bit of a narrative going on. I call it the RFK-ification of skincare and sunscreen, and it's hideous actually. And there's a brand, I'm not even going to name them, but they just did a billboard calling sunscreen poison. And we were able to kind of quickly adapt and create in-house, a digital, our design team, AI didn't do it, but our design team did it, and we did on the exact billboards that they had put these stupid slogans. We did our own kind of, countering that and saying, not to fearmonger, but I think to say that the sunscreens, the chemicals are in everything. It's not poison. And we were able to kind of have a laugh and just do things that I think some of the bigger brands aren't able to do. So I think it's a real benefit.
Yeah, that campaign generated a lot of buzz. Mark, Bioma has a knack for hit skincare products. Looking at your bestsellers, can you walk us through the development process for creating winners?
Yeah, of course. I think everything starts with an insight, right? And the way we've built our infrastructure is essentially to know our customer better than they know themselves. and find ways to serve them in the most authentic way. So there's kind of 3 ways in which we do that. So clinical trials, we've conducted over 76 in the last 3 years. So we really understand the science of skin. Social, we had over 200,000 DMs last month. And we're turning those DMs into a connection and into a conversation. And really on the back end, finding ways to ask questions and again, to really understand what do they want, what do they need. And then lastly, it's true innovation. Finding true white spaces where there's a consumer need, there's demand, and holding yourself to the highest possible standard. If we can't do it better than anyone else, we don't do it. And I think it's a combination of all of those things. And I guess to summarize, it's having the insights, the intelligence, but also the intuition to really do things differently.
People are so interested in international sunscreens. Sumin, did you want to talk about your US formulation process?
Yes. As many of you guys know, we weren't able to sell our global version of sunscreen in the US starting from last year, I remember. I mean the Korean version. So we love our US consumers. I mean, they're so important for us. And we knew that there's a huge demand of developing beautiful sunscreens that they need, that they experience from our original version. So we worked on it, and I mean, it took a lot of work. I tested like more than 100 times on my face, and yeah, so I can say that we're finalized the final formula of our US sunscreen only using FDA-approved filters that delivers the beautiful, lightweight texture that everyone have experienced from our original sunscreen. So it's gonna be our huge launch this year.
Mm-hmm. And what about Australian sunscreens?
Yeah, well, I mean, Australian sunscreens are almost the benchmark for the best sunscreen globally. We kind of, at Ultraviolet, we start with an Australian approved, and we test everything to Australian standards, whether it's being sold in the US or Canada. But, you know, it is, the reformulation part is something, I mean, I could talk about this for hours, so you'll probably have to stop me, Liz. But, you know, the reformulation process for the US was hard, and it's, you know, we've been around for 6 years, and we've got, you know, a really loyal following globally. So there was a lot of confusion around what formulas were being sold here versus the rest of the world, and people without really understanding so much about the actual filters. I mean, most of what people have learned in America about UV filters has come from Charlotte Palomino. So, you know, without that much of an understanding, they just know that they're better. So it's like, I want the better. And, but we did, you know, we spent 2 years reformulating for the US. We didn't actually ever want to do it initially, which was before we got investors, and then once we had investors, we were like, okay, yeah, well, I guess we need to do this. And then it became, I guess, a bit of a passion project of Beck, my co-founder, and myself, and we really challenged ourselves to make formulations as good as the rest of the world, so that, you know, whether you tried our product on vacation in Greece and found it in a Sephora there, and now you're back home in the States living wherever, and you walk into your local Sephora, and the product that you're picking up there is just as good as the one you found earlier. But it is a really, it's a grueling process. I think sunscreen is the hardest category. I mean, every category has its challenges, but you do need real guts to do something like sunscreen, because it's really tightly regulated in multiple different regions. So it's, yeah, Beck and I always laugh that we didn't know that when we got into it. We're like, we could have done something easier. But Beck loves to do hard things, so, and I will do whatever she says, so yeah.
Great. Well, I think we're running low on time, but just to wrap up, I just wanted to talk about challenges for indie brands. You're launching at Sephora, you've launched at Sephora, you're launching at Sephora. Do you want to talk about the tariff situation and what's top of mind as indie brands right now?
Do you want me to start?
Do you want to go to first?
Sure. I mean, the tariff situation is a challenge, of course. You know, we're in Australia. Everything we make is in Australia, so it's just we're in the 10% club. So that's not our biggest challenge, I don't think, at the moment. Although it is changing every day. So you know, every day Beck and I during that period we were like, what fresh hell are we going to wake up to today? But I guess for me, what's top of mind as we're building a brand is, you know, sunscreen is a category that's kind of like, no matter which way you cut it, it's almost, there's some fear mongering in it. You know, you're either telling people that they're going to look uglier earlier, or you're telling people that they're going to have cancer if they don't use this product. It's kind of like a preventative product. And then the visual like cues, the befores and the afters, it's not, there's no instant gratification to sunscreen. So I think it's hard to get a customer that doesn't really understand why they need to wear sunscreen, and maybe they're 25 and we're saying, you're going to see the benefit in 10 years. Like when you're 25, you don't give a shit about the next 10 years. Like you're like just living in the day. Like you're never going to die. You're never going to get cancer. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a hard, so I guess my challenge is like, what is the unlock to making it more positive and joyful? And I think as a brand, that's what we really try to do, is bring some fun and joy into a category that is, you know, historically not been joyful. And I know there is an unlock, because it can't be about scaring people into doing something. You want to make them love it. So for me, that is what I think about every night. And I know it's there. It's like, you know, I'm 10 months postpartum, so I'm like, it's just there. Like I just have to wait till my brain kind of wakes up. They say 12 months, so the clock's ticking.
Yeah, what about you, Mark?
I also, look, I think arguably every single person in this room, we're navigating through probably the most uncertain times that this industry's ever experienced. And the way we've really approached it as a business is, let's plan for every scenario and be prepared to react. But also, you know, as Tarang said earlier this morning, you have to deal with it in a really honest way. Tell your community, tell your customers, this is what it means to us. And then from a business perspective right now, we're really just using this as an opportunity to level up, staying true to our purpose, hiring the best people, focusing on culture. How do we set people up for success? How do we create an environment where people feel safe being in the unknown, they feel safe failing, they feel safe taking risks, and then build amazing partnerships with the best retailers and the best partners that will support you through whatever challenge you face. So,
what about you, Sumin?
When you're talking about tariffs first, yeah, being affordable as a Korean skincare brand is such an important part of our brand identity, because everyone expects that K-beauty is really affordable, like under 20. So we're keeping that concept as well. So at least for now, we're trying to absorb that increased cost ourselves without increasing prices. But we're gonna see, like, situation is changing so fast. So I think we'll see if this will going to be in long-term situation. And yeah, we'll have to figure out how to respond to that. But yeah, but more than that, the most challenging part is that we don't want to be considered as a one-hit wonder on TikTok. So what we're creating is to focus more on creating our ecosystem of our BOJ world to bring that relief to every one of our consumers out there. So yeah, that is gonna be our biggest challenge rather than tariff thing, yeah.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
How much is too much to pay for a mascara or a lipstick or serum? As we analyzed in our State of Fashion Beauty report, customers are deeply questioning the value of beauty products. looking for quality, long-lasting formulas, and legitimate results at every price point. But prestige beauty prices have been steadily increasing over the last few years, and shoppers, on the other hand, are becoming more attuned to value. To better understand the nuance of the value equation, we will be joined by Mary Carmen Gasco-Bussian of Unilever Prestige in conversation with BOF's Chief Business Officer and Head of Beauty, Joanna Stout.
MC, it's so lovely to be here with you in Napa today. Today we are going to be talking about how the prestige beauty customer is thinking about and defining value. We know it is a challenging market. We have a more cost-conscious consumer with higher expectations and more choice on product and channels to purchase than ever before. A study from the University of Michigan found that the average American family will see a $4,700 increase in living expenses at the end of the 90-day tariff reprieve. And yesterday we found from the State of Fashion Beauty report that excessively priced brands have proven that they can challenge their more expensive counterparts when it comes to efficacy, virality, and innovation. But of course, with all of these challenges comes great opportunity. So, MC, prior to taking the helm at Unilever Prestige 7 months ago, you have over 20 years experience with working with some of the industry's leading mass brands. With this unique perspective, I'm curious, how do you think consumers' perceptions around value have evolved, and what behaviors are you seeing specifically from the prestige customer in this new environment?
Before I answer that, first let me say thank you to Imran and Joanna and the team for having us here today. I'm honored to be sharing this stage with some of the incredible people that we have heard from today. I mean, Tarang opened up the day in a magnificent way. The young lady, Sydney, who spoke just a few minutes ago. Wow, thank you. So going back to your question, perceptions of value. Before we get into what has changed, I would like to reflect a minute on what has not changed. I think there's two key things that have not changed. The first one is that beauty plays such a big role in our lives. You know, there was a time in my life where I kind of looked down on it, where I didn't really, when I was young, I just kind of didn't think about it too much. And I was blessed with good skin and all this stuff. And then one day, I started having skin issues. And I will tell you that it stared me straight in the face what it meant to not feel good when I looked at myself in the mirror. And the value of the products that helped me get through that. It really, you know, I think it had to happen to me to feel that level of empathy. And it's not just when you have skin issues. It can be you're going on stage and the glam team made us all feel better to be here. So we play an important, really important role in people's lives, in how they come across, in who they are with their family, with their colleagues. Are you able to bring your full self into your life? And so that experience really kind of put it straight up for me when I was relatively young. And so that has not changed. We play a huge role in the emotion and the happiness and the fulfillment of people all over the world. What also hasn't changed is that consumers are really savvy. They've always been. They now have more tools. Now they're better educated. They have better access. You know, anybody can research ingredients and innovation. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So they're more educated, but they've always been savvy, and they've always looked for value. And when it comes to beauty, I mean, value is it's really kind of like an equation. It's about, do you deliver the efficacy that you promised me? Is the experience of using your product amazing? Do I love that experience? Over the price that you pay for it. However, I think it's important to differentiate two stages. We talk a lot about the moment of awareness when I find out about a brand, But I think there's two stages. One is when I become aware. The multiplier is, wow, must I have it? So efficacy and experience, but must I have it? There are some products that we just have to have. And that multiplier is really important, particularly today, where there's so much being sent at us, and there's so much information. So at that moment of awareness, do you do what you say? Is the experience, the packaging, the touch and feel of your product wonderful? And does it have that desire, that irresistibility of I must have it? At the moment of use, which is the other important moment, again, quality and do you do what you say matters. But I think the magic really happens when you start using that product. And when that product changes something that really matters to you, it becomes unforgettable. So I think we need to put more attention in that part, which is innovation that really solves something important to people. Innovation is not just the latest trend or the latest NPD, but it's actually real work of finding how are we going to solve the problems that are still not solved. And I think that, that is always going to be there. It's just that today the demands are higher because, yes, there's more options and people are more informed.
I want to touch on what you were saying about efficacy. More than ever, mass brands have proven that they can compete with their more expensive counterparts. We found in the State of Fashion Beauty report that 63% of consumers do not think that premium beauty products are higher performing than their less expensive counterparts. How does prestige compete in this environment, and how are the brands within your portfolio thinking about it?
Yeah, I think it goes back to they don't think that. And we need to look at ourselves as to why don't they think that. I think it has to do often with the fact that we may not put the same level of care into everything that we promise as an industry, and that perhaps we sometimes fall asleep at the wheel a little bit. When you look at prestige, why would anybody go to a prestige brand in a world where everything is accessible? It is because we expect higher level of innovation. We expect a more extraordinary experience. We expect, as consumers, a result that will become unforgettable. An example, I hope you don't mind me sharing. I was talking to Joanna, and we were talking about products that have done that for us. And she was sharing with me, you told me it was okay to share, so I will.
I did tell you it was okay.
After your maternity, you were having some postpartum hair loss. I had some of that myself, actually. Yeah. And if anybody here has experienced that, any kind of hair loss, you know what that means. It is devastating. And someone, luckily, suggested that you try one of our brands, actually, the dry shampoo from Living Proof. And what you said to me, tell them what you said to me.
Yeah, I was coming back from maternity leave, and I was even struggling with my identity as a new working mother. And then my hair is falling out in clumps. It was incredibly jarring, and this hairspray, I had never thought about product in this way, but it genuinely gave me my confidence back. And it was incredibly powerful. And this brand has a customer for life. It was really, really powerful for me.
And that's what we, as an industry, thank you. Yeah. That's as an industry what we need to strive for, is to keep raising the bar. Keep raising the bar. Understanding what really matters, what our customers really need and want in their lives. And sometimes is solving a need that is really impacting you emotionally. Sometimes is something perhaps more, like Tatcha. You guys heard from Tatcha earlier today. When I take my 5 minutes at night to do my Tatcha ritual, I feel like I'm self-loving. That's really, I run at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Those who know me know I'm always going. But those 5 minutes are mine, and they're self-care for me. And I aspire the fragrance of Tatcha and the feeling on my skin, and that is valuable to me, and that makes Tatcha unforgettable. So it's really about continuing to raise the bar and delivering higher value in not just the experience, but also the results, and also the stories that we tell, and we give people aspiration and dreams.
It's incredibly powerful. MC, final question. thinking about future acquisitions, what are you looking for in the prestige category, and where do you see some of the most exciting opportunities?
So loads of places. And that's the thing about this industry. I had left beauty to go foray into jewelry for a while. That was fun too, and healthcare for a minute. But most of my career has been in beauty. And I came back to it, and I remember thinking, oh my God, beauty moves so fast. It's really amazing. And at this moment, we're all seeing so many things that are disrupting. But with disruption comes great opportunity as well. And so what do we look for? Unilever Prestige, our model, and I have to acknowledge our founder, who I've taken over from 6 months ago, Vasiliki, she's in here somewhere, created a wonderful model where we embrace founders and we bring you into the family, and we help the brands really codify what makes them unique and different, and we help them scale while protecting that founder DNA. And we're very blessed our founders stay with us and continue to contribute for years to come. So what do we look for? We look for brands that, frankly, is the same things that you need no matter where you are today, which is brands that have a clear point of view, a differentiating point of view that has power to last. So it's not a fad, it's grounded on real human insight and real, purpose. And then that deliver that fully in everything without compromise, because that's the other thing about prestige. Prestige is also about what values are you not willing to ever compromise on. And we look for that. We look for vision from the founder. We look for strong DNA. We look for perfect execution. And of course, we look for businesses that can scale profitably. So it's both of those things. And of course, we're always looking for opportunities where we see unmet needs. So innovation, true innovation, where there's a consumer desire or need that is not being met and somebody is solving it. I'll give you an example of K18, our latest acquisition. My God, K18 went after hair damage repair in an amazing biotech advanced way, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, MC. Thank you.
I'm sure many of us at some point have daydreamed about a career change. We may have a secret passion or talent for something that doesn't fit in our day-to-day working life, and wonder if we would be bold enough to make that leap. Our next guest, Yasmin Sewell, is someone who has bet on herself multiple times. She's been a stylist, a fashion editor, a merchant, and now she's a founder of a beauty brand, Vireo. Please welcome Yasmin Sewell together with Imran to discuss personal and professional growth and how to know when you're ready to step into your next act.
Okay, so full disclosure, I specifically asked to do this conversation because Yasmin and I have known each other
a long time.
For about 20 years. I think maybe just before BOF even existed.
Yeah, when it was in your brain.
Yeah, and I've had the pleasure of kind of seeing Yasmin's career trajectory, as Priya was just talking about. You started your journey in fashion in London at the age of 22, is that right?
19.
19. And you eventually became one of those, when I first entered fashion, you became one of those buyers that, this was before a lot of direct-to-consumer, and everyone, big emerging fashion brands, they were all reliant on these important wholesalers. And there's this legendary retailer in London called Browns, which is known for discovering a lot of designers. They had a legendary founder named Joan Burstein.
Mrs. B,
They were credited with putting on the map people like Galliano and McQueen. And when I first entered the fashion world, you were at Browns. And I remember people would speak with your name with this reverence, like Yasmin Sewell, You had built already so much respect in the industry. But then one day, after a number of job changes, you went to Liberty and you went to Style.com, which had become a retailer. Away from that website that all fashion people were addicted to, and then you were at Farfetch. And at some point you decided, I'm done with fashion, right? And now I'm like bumping into you here.
Now I'm here.
In this context,
Yeah.
right? So we're two fashion people in the beauty world.
Yeah.
When you're making a change like that in your career, like talk to us a little bit about what was going through your head and how you knew and how you were ready to leave behind this incredible track record, that, you know, stellar reputation, all the experience, contacts, and network you had, and you're willing to say, basta, I'm done.
Totally. Well, I do love change. I guess I never realized I was going to move into the beauty industry. It wasn't like I was like, fashion, done, beauty, yes. It wasn't where I was at. When I was in fashion, what made me successful was tapping into my intuition and tapping into energy, which is everything that I've created now. So I was born quite psychic. Always been able to connect with many things, and I use that ability to discover the designers at Browns and
so your psychic power enabled you to discover Jonathan Anderson and Christopher Kane and Rick Owens.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
She said she was going to go woo-woo. I didn't know it was going to go full on
Go,
this early. But
I said that we're going to go the most woo-woo today. Yes, the answer is yes. Like, for example, Jonathan Anderson.
Yeah.
One of the greatest designers of our time now, right? So when I met him, I was at Liberty, and he was this kind of mental guy, not making great clothes. And I was seeing all these designers, and I'd go and see, I'd seen hundreds and hundreds, right? And I met Jonathan, and he had these menswear, and it was kind of weird and interesting, but it was something about him that there was a rush that went through my body that was like, there's something about this guy that's kind of brilliant. And I'm like, he should be doing women's wear, accessories. Why is he not? There's something really special there. And it wasn't my brain telling me this makes sense. It was something else telling me this feels right. And that feeling is what I have lived by my whole life. It's what's led me to where I'm at now. And actually what I believe I've done is bottled that into fragrance. What we do at Vireo is that we're here to amplify your energetic field, open you up, mindfulness, consciousness. We have fragrances that are neuroscience-backed for mindfulness. I can talk about this for hours, but you know, and I really believe that tuning into that higher self is where everything's at. The brain will take you so far, but it's our soul purpose that takes you beyond. So Jonathan was an amazing example. He's now the greatest of our time. And I said to him, you should do women's wear, you should do accessories. And for the first time ever, I was like, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna work for free for 6 months. I never did this. And I'm gonna help you launch women's wear. And now he's one of the greatest.
Now he's the creative director of Dior, men's, women's, and haute couture.
Yeah,
you know,
gosh, I should have taken some sort of deal. I didn't get the deal.
I have a question about intuition. Because I'm also quite intuitive.
Yeah.
But I'm also very analytical.
Yes.
And, you know, I think I sometimes drive my team crazy because if my intuition and my analytical brain align, the decision is made really quickly. But if my analytical side and my creative side or my intuitive side don't align, it's kind of paralysis. Like I can't make the decision until both of those things align. So as someone who's going to build a career on intuition, but is now navigating a world with a lot of left-brain people. You know, you have investors like L. Catterton, you're dealing with like retailers who are considering like sell-through and return and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like, how are you reconciling and kind of navigating a world, staying true to your intuition while also being clear that also like the analytics, the numbers, all of that stuff still matters?
It's super interesting that I think about it quite often because I do, like I was saying, there's the brain and then there's the gut, two different things, and we can use both. I tend to lead with the gut, as I've said. I'm sort of 98% intuition, 2% common sense. But when I am in business, and you know, I've obviously, you know, had a business for 4 years now. I've raised money. I have Estee Lauder, El Catterton, Manzanita, amazing people. I managed to raise by using my brain. But I also did the woo-woo test on all of them as well. So I made sure that when I was, you know, talking about projections and vision and my plans and NPD and all the marketing and everything, which of course they bought into and they loved, but I also made sure that I dropped in a bit of woo-woo to see if they wouldn't be freaked out by it, because this is really what I'm leading with. This is a business around energetic healing. We're channeling good energy into our products. And so I really do use both. I lead with intuition, and I use the brain as a tool. I don't think the brain can take us that far. For me, it doesn't. I think it takes you to a certain point. I mean, I told you, I didn't finish school. I left school at 15. I found it really difficult to sit in a class and process information. I found it really frustrating. I learned through doing. I learned through building. I learned through creation. So I lead with one, which is the gut, and then I let the brain follow. And even if the brain says no, I still do it.
Okay. So walk us through a case study of how that worked with the kind of genesis of Vireo, which, is a brand, as you mentioned, you've raised money from some of the top, institutional and strategic investors. It's a brand on everyone's lips. Everyone's interested in it. It seems to be disruptive in this fragrance world. Walk us through the intuitive process of creating Vireo.
So I left my last big job in fashion, which was at Farfetch. And then I was like going through quite a big change in my personal life. I was going through a divorce. I was like, time to have a little breather. And I do think these times of transition are really powerful. You spoke about it last night in your little journey, which we'll do the interview with Tracy Lee Ross and you. You took that time out. And I took time out. I sat in my house and I thought, okay, I'm going to paint my house. I want to change my house. My life has just changed. Time to have a break. And I heard this voice saying, everything needs to be green. I just heard the word green, go green, everything's green. It's all I could hear. It was like a speaker I couldn't turn off. So I painted my house Kermit the Frog green. And I sat and I just was sitting in this greenhouse. And in the
Inside and out?
Mainly inside.
Okay.
Kermit the Frog green. And yeah, it's really beautiful, but anyway. And in the greenhouse, I sat there and I stopped, and Vireo came to me as an absolute vision from somewhere else. I always knew that I would turn. I'm trained in many different forms of holistic well-being. I'm trained in Reiki, integrative quantum medicine, kinesiology. I'm trained in Ayurveda, flower remedies. All the fashion career, I was off training and studying and learning, so I could be more intuitive and better in my job. So I could predict the trend and the designer and the thing and feel. So I did all that training because I knew one day I'd turn it into something. I was like, am I going to be like in a caftan with a spa? Is that going to be me? It might be me in 10 years, let's see. But I knew I would turn all of this stuff, let's call it woo-woo stuff, I knew I would turn it into something. I didn't know it would be this. I had no idea it would be fragrance. We're going to go beyond fragrance. But I sat in this greenhouse and it all came to me. Vireo actually is a Latin verb that means I am verdant, I'm vigorous, I sprout green growth, that means green. The packaging is Kermit the Frog green. We are green. And what came to me was, if energy is the source of everything, which it is, can I build an entire brand based on energy? Can energy be the source of the brand? And when I realized that, then it flooded through to me that, okay, so through the senses we can shift and heal. When we smell something, we are transformed. I mean, it's like there's neuroscience. I work with neuroscience now. We smell something, we are transported, we change, we mood. That changes our energetic field. It alters us. My take on well-being is our emotional, spiritual, it's our energetic well-being. So I thought, I could make scent, I could make fragrance. I launched Frederic Malle into Liberty. So I launched Eccentric Molecules into Browns. I wasn't unaware of good fragrance. I knew that with all my experience in beauty, because fashion is beauty, if you think about it, really. It's beautiful things. I knew that with my experience, I could channel that into incredible fragrance. And could I make fragrances that were more than just a fragrance, but an energetic source? And I want to say also, if you don't give a shit about the wellness stuff or the energy, they are just exquisite fragrances. Like, they're just beautiful, made at the highest level, and good for you.
So I'm curious, it's a really beautiful story. And I can imagine you sitting in front of the Elle Catterton people or the Estee Lauder people and telling the story, and you embody it, you tell it beautifully, but then you actually need to make it happen. And you come from a completely different world. The way we measure success in fashion is different from beauty. You know, the way beauty products are created is completely different from the way fashion products are created. Talk to us about what you brought from fashion that's helped you in beauty, and like what you needed to learn how to do or find people to help you do to actually create a product and take it to market.
I mean, I didn't know how to make anything at all. So I had to really bring in people to tell me how to make anything. I had to learn all of that. I found it super interesting. Fashion, I think people stay in fashion for so long because it's constantly changing and moving, and there's a new energy every few months. Newness, new designers, new brands, new trends, new movement. So you can stay in the industry. We know all those people. They're in there for their whole lives. It can keep you there. What I liked about beauty or creating a fragrance was I could create this object that could be in existence for 100 years.
Yeah.
That was extraordinary to me.
And completely different from fashion where things date so quickly.
Churning through.
Yeah.
So that was different. I didn't know everything I had to learn. I think I understood sensibility, I understood quality. My vision was sharp and clear, and I was fearless in it. And I took a huge risk with this. You know, I put my life on the line. I did this, and I remember someone saying to me, a fashion designer friend of mine, you know, I started this in my 40s, and he was like, God, look at you, Yaz, good on you. I was like, what does that mean? And I think what he meant was, you're not 30 and you're doing this, wow. And I was thinking, well, come on, life is long. We can, you know, I think we can reinvent ourselves. I think that we can, I love the fact that I'm in a whole new world. I'm here in the beauty industry with you, although I know you from fashion. I think that, but I've learned, and I love learning through doing. Like again, I left school at 15, I started working. I opened up my first boutique at 22. I didn't know how the hell to do that. I didn't know how to be a buyer. I walked into showrooms. I saw this guy called Rick Owens, and the jackets looked kind of cool. And I was like, oh, that feels right. You know, and I didn't realize I had an eye to pick things. It wasn't like I was trained or I didn't learn anything. I just went in there and did it.
But Yasmin, I still don't know how you created a fragrance. Like, you were living in the greenhouse, you had the idea, you understood eccentric molecule, you understood Frederick Malle, but like, how did you make a fragrance?
Well, I spoke to a few experts. Okay, so I went to wonderful Lynn Harris first, who's I call her the Phoebe Philo of the fragrance world. And she's the person who formulated my first 5 fragrances with. And again, I sat with her. She's the first person I went to with this idea of, can I create a fragrance that isn't like a woody, an oriental, a floral? I didn't talk about the notes at all. I talk about the emotions. Freedom, liberation, sensuality, empowerment, self-love. These are things that we use. Every single plant and flower and every single fragrance is chosen for how it makes you feel. Everything. Through the thousands of years of history. Now we work with neuroscience. It's proven to trigger certain emotions in the brain. So Lynn was like someone. Then I worked with Maeve McCurtain, phenomenal nose from IFF. Again, learning. I brought in a great NPD person who helped me work out how to get the bottle and make a bottle, and we got the wrong pumps at the beginning, and they broke, and then we learned, you know, everyone's. Yeah, I mean, looking back now, it was 5 years ago that I was doing that, just trusting people and just trying to work it out, Imran, I think, you know. I think the creative part, the vision part, the branding part, that for me was quite easy. It was the making.
Execution.
Execution,
I mean, I think as entrepreneurs, often that's the least understood or appreciated bit for people who've never built something on their own is like, you can have the idea, but how do you make it happen?
Yeah.
So tell us, what's the state of Vireo today? I mean, you know, from the idea, from the inception to now, what is the business today, and where do you want to take it?
So I never wanted it to be purely a fragrance brand. It's definitely more, I think we're in this genre of sort of I think we're more in the well-being space really, although we definitely look like beautiful fragrance. We are making that. But this is really about energy, transforming your energy, energetic field, spirit, mood, emotion. So we'll do that through all sorts of ways, definitely looking at the senses, scent being the first. There'll be things that we taste coming as well. There'll be things we use on the body, touch, everything is going to be incorporated. We're building it, I don't know, slowly, fast? I'm not totally sure. I have amazing partners, not just the investors, but even in our retail partners. There's Margaret, Space NK. I, have amazing people, Mecca Australia, Liberty have been supportive, Solvages we launched with, Gwyneth Goop, she's one of my investors, incredible. I'm surrounded by people who really believe in what I'm doing. I don't think they presume I'm going to go crazy fast because we're not doing something that's mass and fast, really. But we are building, and we're pretty global already. And we're converting customers who try my fragrances now, and they say to me, I could never go back to my other one now that I wear yours. There's something about it that just makes me feel different. And I get people messaging me daily saying how the scents make them feel. The feeling is coming through all the time, all the time.
Why do you think intuition is so undervalued in the business world?
Well, people can't really make sense of it. I think anything you can't see, the unseen is sort of nerve-wracking to people. I mean, I've built a business on something that's quite esoteric. But I think the fact that people have come on board and believed in it is just marvelous. Intuition is like, it's everything. I mean, Taryn was talking, just so incredible, a phenomenal businessman, but you can tell he's working with more than just his brain. There's more going on there. I'm sure he would acknowledge that. I think anybody would know there's something more. I think anyone, I remember when you were speaking as well, there's more that we tap into, that we feel. I think that intuition is like, I realize that some people don't use it. That surprised me. I had a friend of mine who came to my house one time, and it really blew my mind at how ignorant I was that not everyone understands intuition, because I just live by it. And she came over to my house and she was like, Yaz, I always thought you were really weird. You talked about intuition, I never really got it. And she goes, but you know what? Something happened to me last week that changed my life. I was sitting with my boyfriend, 5-year relationship, really happy. And he went out, left his phone behind, and I was sitting there and his phone was right in front of me. And something told me to check his phone. And she's not the phone checker girl. Like, she's not one of those girls. She's a cool girl. Like, she's secure in herself. But something that she'd never felt before, she never recognized before, told her to check. And inevitably, she checked. And she was like, I thought about you, because you always talked about this. I never heard the voice. I was like, you never heard the voice? And it made me realize that not everyone...
So for people who want to hear that voice but don't know how, for people who haven't managed to trust that instinct, how can you tap into that?
Well, I think that intuition is a bit like, training an AI tool. Because the more you listen, the more you trust, and the better it gets. So at first you might be like, is that my brain? Is it my mind or my intuition? But eventually you start to realize the difference between what's coming from the frontal lobe and what's coming from somewhere else. It's like meditation. But people say, I can't meditate. I don't know how to do that. Okay. Meditation is just a separation from the thoughts and the mind and watching them from a distance. That's all it is. It's like at the airport when the planes are going round and round. What's it called? Holding pattern. When I meditate, I imagine my thoughts are up there just floating around. Hey guys, you're crazy. And underneath that is that place. And being able to learn to listen to that other part of you. I always imagine it's here and here, Quite often I'll do this. I won't do it now because of the microphone. But, you listen to something else. But the more you listen, the more you trust, the more you know the feeling, then you start to get the rushes. I get the energetic rush sometimes. Yeah, see, got some, you get the little, it's like, and also everyone knows, you meet someone, you get the feeling, it's energy. You meet someone else, energy goes down, you know what that is. Those things that we all know, we actually do all know. There's one thing people always ask me this question, how do you know, and energy, I don't really get it. If I relate it to fashion, when I was working in fashion, I remember there would always be a new collection that would come in. Like, I was at Liberty, and new Saint Laurent collection would come in. And it's the same black blazer. We've seen it before. It's the same black blazer. And it would come in new season, and it would be on the shelf, and everyone would gravitate towards the new season collection. But the sales stuff would just sort of sit there a bit stagnant, and that's because the energy of that collection was stagnant. It wasn't fresh. So no, even though it was the same black blazer, people didn't go towards that. They went to the new for whatever reason. I also say, when you buy a new dress, you put it on the first time, you go out, your vibration is higher. And people are always like, I love your dress. But 5 times later, they don't really comment on it because you're not, right? Everyone knows what I'm saying. This is all energy. This is all a feeling. So going back to Vareo, we're enhancing that in the scent. You spray our scents, they will amplify your vibration, like the new dress. So I think I talk about this and we kind of all know it. We do all know it.
Yeah.
We just forget to kind of use it. I just happen to use it 24/7.
Okay, well, it's been amazing to see your reinvention in beauty, and thank you for tuning us into your
thank you.
your energy. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's hard to think of any beauty brand that's had more buzz or excitement in the last year than Hailey Bieber's Rhode. From its must-have phone cases and peptide lip treatments to the lines out the door at its pop-up events, every move Rhode makes is part of a strategic brand-building exercise that has made it one of the most watched and most admired businesses in the beauty industry. Rhode has proven that celebrity-led brands can scale authentically and become attractive customer magnets and acquisition targets. Just 2 weeks ago, e.l.f. Beauty announced its acquisition of the 3-year-old brand in a $1 billion deal. On the heels of that news, and as the brand prepares to enter Sephora later this year, Hailey Bieber is here to talk to Priya about breaking beauty barriers for the first time since the deal was announced. So, for a very special talk to close the Business of Beauty Global Forum 2025, please join me in welcoming Hailey Rhode Bieber and Priya to the stage.
Hailey, I can't say how excited this crowd is to see you and how excited I am to see you.
Thank
This is
you.
something we've been talking about for a while now, maybe 3 years since this forum was launched. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Hailey, you and I met a long time ago, 8 years ago, I think, and it was for the cover of a male magazine, and we were doing a profile. And I think you were at the beginning of your modeling career, is that right?
Probably something along those lines. Yeah, I'm like, how old was I 8 years ago? I think I was maybe 20.
Yeah. And you were still kind of figuring out what it is you wanted to do. You were doing some modeling, you were hosting. Like, did you ever think that you would be here now as a billion-dollar beauty founder?
I mean, I definitely knew I always had a dream to have my own business and do something that was a departure from the modeling world. I always felt like stepping into that world of modeling and editorial and all of those things was the first step in a bigger picture that I saw for myself. I didn't know right from the get-go that it was going to be in beauty. I was always very interested in fashion and clothing, and that's why I loved working in the modeling industry in the first place, because you're surrounded by the most incredible fashion and beauty and all of those things. So the vision started to become more and more clear to me as I became more beauty obsessed myself. I always have been my entire life. I came from a mom and a grandma who are also both very, very beauty obsessed, and I feel like they instilled that in me from a very, very young age. And I felt like through my career and through working with some of the most incredible makeup artists and hairstylists and photographers and all of these different people, I was really able to just be a sponge and absorb so much from the people that I was lucky enough to work with. And over the years, it just became more and more clear to me that beauty was a space that I really wanted to be a part of. I felt really passionate about it. I felt really interested in it. I am such a skincare junkie to the core. I love skincare. I love beauty. So it just, from there, it started to become very clear to me.
It also seems very authentic. I know I'd heard, and I think we've probably all read, you were interested in dabbling in other industries. Maybe it was food, maybe it was fashion. When did the formal idea for Rhode kind of crystallize?
The formal idea really crystallized in 2020 during the pandemic. So that's when I would say for a year or two even before that, I was thinking, okay, I know I want to do this brand. I know I want to do it in skincare, but I don't really know what that looks like exactly. What is going to be my ethos? What's important to me? What do I really want it to say? What do I want it to look like, feel like? What do I want it to do? And with the pandemic, I was like, okay, we don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know how long we're going to be inside for. I finally felt like I really had the time to sit down and hone in on really what the idea was and what the world was going to look like. And with that time, I was able to call my now co-founders, Michael Ratner and Lauren Ratner. And I said, hey, I have this idea. I've been thinking about it for a really long time. I call him Ratty. I'm like, Ratty, I know you are definitely not in this beauty world at all, but here's my idea. And I was wondering if you guys would be interested in helping me. And together with them, and Lauren has a fantastic background in marketing. She's so brilliant, so smart. I came to them, I said, here's my idea, here's the concept, here's what I want to do. Very edited, very curated, really strong brand story, really great visuals, very editorial, very sporty, very like on the go. As somebody who, I was really taking all my life experiences and putting it into this brand. I'm like, okay, so when I travel and I'm traveling to set to go to a shoot, here's the things that I always need to have with me. If I was gonna be stuck on a desert island, like what are the 3 things that I need to have with me when I'm on, when I throw something in my bag, what are those things I need to have? And it started to really evolve from there too, this idea of kind of like your skincare wardrobe, like the perfect white t-shirt, the perfect pair of jeans, the perfect leather jacket. I'm like obsessed with leather jackets. I have like a crazy, insane, like over the top like collection. I'm like, but I like am obsessed with finding the perfect leather jacket the same way I'm obsessed with finding the perfect moisturizer. And that was really where the idea stuck to me, where it felt very, very clear that I wanted to make one of everything really good. And that was where that concept came from.
It seems like it kind of helped that it was a bunch of seemingly outsiders from the beauty industry, not your traditional operators, not your traditional, someone who worked at Estee Lauder or L'Oreal for 20 years, that allowed you to kind of break the rules. Is that what you feel like?
I think that I was very, very clear from the beginning that I didn't want to do it traditionally. I did not want to use an incubator. I explored every avenue you could because I wanted to know what everything looked like, but I knew that I wanted to put my own money into it. I knew I wanted to be the majority owner always. And so through the evolution of taking different meetings and talking to different people, I figured out what path was going to be best for me, and that was for me to be the one that put in the majority of the money. And then I found my partner who, we came together. They were kind of like my operator at the time, and we just grew it from the ground up organically from there.
It's phenomenal, right? I think when all the numbers came out a couple of weeks ago, 212 net sales, all direct to consumer, 3 years. I think everyone was like, what? Like, how do you...
I'm like, what?
How did you do that? I mean, it really seems like unbelievable. And it really comes down, I think, to all of us in the room, you. I mean, how do you think that, was it your gut? Was it your instinct? What was it?
I mean, I will say, over everything, I do think that I follow my gut and I follow my instinct. I feel like that's something that's very, very important. As a woman, I think that my intuition is very, very strong. My instinct is very, very strong. I feel like that's only increased and only grown as I've developed that and gotten older and had different experiences. But I also have to say, like, our consumer and our customer is just so insanely loyal. And I feel like the thing for me with Rhode is that it's not just about the product, it's the whole entire world of Rhode. It's the way I want people to feel something when they get the products, when they use them. I want them to feel that they are a part of something. And for me, that's like this weird little world I'm building in my brain. It's a lifestyle, it's, product, it's a feeling, it's imagery, it's, your phone case. It's so many different things. It's that expands so far outside of beauty to me. And from the beginning, I remember being in a meeting really early on, and I was like, I don't want to just be a beauty company. I want to be a tech company too. Like, I want to just be more than one box of something. And that's really a big goal of mine, is to keep
expanding that world to being so many more things than just beauty and just skincare, because I think it's possible to be so many more things than just that.
You know what I think is so interesting is that you've often attached products to things, but first you've created desire, you know, whether it was somebody wanting to mimic your lipstick or your blush or your, you know, you don't call it this, but everybody on the internet called it this, glazed donut skin or latte makeup, you know, which I think is really brilliant because it really does feel like it's you. Do you really feel like the brand is a reflection of what you like and what you are about?
It is like, I am Rhode and Rhode is me, and like there is no separation to me. Everything that I'm putting out there are things that I genuinely use myself. I don't believe in overconsumption. I don't want to give people something that I wouldn't actually use, that isn't actually part of my routine, that's not something that I genuinely am obsessed with and love. And everything that I'm doing, everything, all the videos I'm doing, all the products that I'm using, it's genuinely because I like it. And I think that people, I think, can feel that authenticity, and I want people to really be able to feel me so intrinsically in the brand, but I also want people to be able and want to love the brand outside of me as well, and that's why I'm so focused on the products actually being really, really good and having great formulas and having a great ingredient story, and that's also why I believe in having a great team, because I only know what I know, and there's so much that goes beyond me that I don't know. I did not go to school, I did not study this, and that's why I believe in surrounding myself with other really brilliant minds that are the best in class at what they do, so that I can give the best in class products.
You are an incredible marketer, though.
Thank you.
I mean, I think everyone in the room can agree with that.
Who knew?
Well, now you do, right? I would just like to understand, like, how, I mean, what are you thinking about? What is your brain like? What's in there? And, like, also when we think about faces.
There's a lot in there.
When you think about the faces that you've had, like Tate McRae, Claudia Schiffer, yesterday, Harris Dickinson, I think, like, whew, like everyone is excited about that.
Yeah.
How are you deciding, like, who represents you and what feels right from a marketing perspective?
I mean, I think a lot of it is gut. I think a lot of it is about synergy too. I think about who feels like they have synergy with the brand, and I want different faces to speak to different people, and I also really just believe that Rhode is for everybody. I don't always want to be the forward-fronting face of the brand, because I really want it to expand beyond me. And I, you know, when it comes to Tate, like, I know Tate behind the scenes too, personally, and I feel like she naturally was a fan of the brand, and, you know, it just made so much sense for that campaign. When I was thinking about the campaign for the lip shapes, I'm like, okay, so we're calling it lip shape, and what is shape to me? I used to be a dancer, and like movement is so important to me, and that's why the names bend and lean and move and spin came from that. And when I thought about who would be so perfect for this campaign, Tate, her body, the way she moves, the way she dances, she's such a performer. I mean, it just was like light bulb switch. And when it came to Claudia, I'm like, who is just like timeless and chic and beautiful and speaks to so many different generations. I mean, like, I'm a massive fan of her, and my mom is a massive fan of her, and I don't know one person that's not a massive fan of her, and she just speaks so globally to so many different people. So the light bulb went off for that, for her too. So I just feel like when I start thinking about, you know, that kind of like merge of face with the brand, I just think about like the energy and the synergy. And, you know, with Harris, I'm a big fan of him and his work, and I felt like he gave off an energy that I felt would really represent Rhode super well.
And he's the first man.
And he's the first man, yeah. And that was so important to me, because I really, from the beginning, wanted Rhode to feel unisex. And that's why our branding, you know, the colors of a lot of everything is like eggshell and gray, and I try to keep it more sporty feeling than anything, because I want anyone to be able to gravitate towards it. And if, you know, you're sleeping over at your boyfriend's house and he sees it, I don't want him to feel like they can't use that either. So I was really excited when we were able to get Harris, because it opened up the world even more.
The edits of the products are pretty unbelievable. I mean, I think people have tried to do this before, like a simple wardrobe of makeup, and I think it's really about the execution for you. So how are you deciding, like, what categories you want to play in, what products you do want to do?
I really just think about what are my can't live without things. What are the 5 things, 10 things, 15 things that like over the course of time I can't live without in my skincare cabinet or in my bag or when I travel. And I think that also really changes and evolves with age as well. When I started thinking about this brand, it was in 2020. That was 5 years ago. So, you know, my skincare needs 5 years ago were one thing, and now they're evolving into other things. So I think about how can I add to this really assorted, curated, edited lineup that are going to tackle what my skin needs with every season, with every age, during pregnancy, so many different things. And for me, the through line is always going to be that like hydration is important. And that's something I said from the beginning. Hydration is key. It's so important. Everyone needs hydration no matter what. And I'm really just letting it evolve from there. Like with the mist, I'm like, I love a facial mist. I knew I wanted that to be in the lineup at some point. Cleanser, have to have a cleanser in the routine. So I'm just really taking it with how I'm personally evolving and, you know, the things that I really need and see as an essential.
When did you start thinking about retail? Because honestly, like, you might not have needed it, right? You were 3 years in the game. You had gotten to this incredible figure. I mean, you could have kept going on the direct route. Why Sephora? Why retail?
I really wanted to go into retail because I really want to expand and I want to reach more people. And that's been such a goal for me. And I think that my team is so incredible. And I think that we have done a really good job as a D2C business. But I really want to reach more countries, more people. I want to get it in more people's hands. And I also really want the customers to be able to go have an in-person experience. We learned very quickly with all of our pop-up experiences how important that was for the customer and how much they enjoyed going, touching, feeling, touching the product, seeing the packaging, seeing it IRL. And after the first 2 pop-ups we did, it became very, very clear, like, this is something that makes a lot of sense for us to be in retail. And of course, we went back and forth with it a few different times, but it felt like the right thing.
It also seems like one of the biggest launches Sephora's had in a number of years. I mean, I can't think of, I mean, there was some pre-pandemic, but this seems to be a really big moment for them as well.
Yeah, it's super exciting on both ends. I mean, the Sephora team is super amazing. I feel like from their end and our end, we have a lot of really good synergy, and I'm really excited.
Are you going to keep doing the pop-ups? Do you think that's still going to be part of the equation?
Yeah, I think that we'll definitely do still our own experiences. It's something that I majorly love doing with the branding and with the brand, so I don't think that's ever gonna stop.
We can't not talk about the e.l.f. deal. Obviously, Tarang's right here in the audience.
Hi,
Tarang. When did you start thinking about a partner? You know, I know you just talked about, obviously, you wanted more people to experience Rhode and see it in real life, and you also talked about, you know, I'm good at what I do. I want other people to help me do what they do best. So was a conglomerate in the cards from the beginning, or was it something that kind of felt like it was the right time?
It was always a conversation of partnership and a great partner. And I think that's very, very hard to come by and very, very hard to find. Rhode is like my baby. I'm so precious about it. And the idea of ever even considering that was a very, very, very big deal to me. And the first time that I ever sat down with the e.l.f. team and met with them, we had a big dinner in LA, and I remember walking away and I was like, they're it. It's like, I knew it in my gut. I knew it from the first time we had dinner, for the first time I met their whole team. We said so many of the same things, and I was like, we are so like-minded, and that feels so good because it makes me have trust that I'm putting something that is so precious and important to me, you know, in their hands as well. And their team is just so amazing, and you know, they really understand and understood that I want to be able to expand and I want to go global, and this is really, really about partnership more than anything for me. And they really just care so much about their founders, and I think that's another rare thing that you don't really find, or is at least very hard to find, where you feel so supported as the founder. And I always really wanted to stay on. I always wanted to be there and even expand my role. I'm here, I want to do more. This is just the beginning to me. I have so many dreams for this brand that I see still coming and I see still happening, that I really felt they wanted to support that. And yeah.
You know, when I talked to Tarang a couple of weeks ago, he said he doesn't think of you as a celebrity beauty founder, and we've seen so many of those kind of come and go. I mean, what do you think it is about you that kind of bucks that trend?
I am a beauty lover, like through and through. I love being part of the beauty community. I feel very immersed in it. I feel very immersed in the world of skincare. I really am about my business, and I really am about being so intricately involved in my business, because to me it's so much more than that. It's me come to life in this world that I've built, and I just couldn't see it any other way. So it's I don't even know how to separate it, because I can't see it any other way. It's Rhode is my world, you know?
Do you think it's the focus also? This is your job. The way that I hear you talk about it is not the way that other people may, they may have their other side hustles.
Yeah.
It just seems like you're so...
It's so interesting, because it so doesn't feel like a job to me. I love what I do. I love building this brand. I love being a part of it. It has brought me the most joy. It's given me so much passion. It has taught me so much. I mean, the things that I have learned through this process, I would never have learned anywhere else, and that really comes from being boots on the ground and really just being around so many brilliant people that I'm learning from and that are teaching me so much. I would have never known about margins and things like this if you asked me 5 years ago, but it feels really empowering and really cool to be part of something from the ground up, and just to continue to keep expanding it and expanding my role and putting more things out into the world that hopefully people love.
We've talked about Sephora, we've talked about e.l.f. Obviously you have great expansion plans there. But where do you see Rhode in 5, 10, 20 years? I mean, is this a forever brand? And we talk about that a lot in beauty. Who's going to be around, not even tomorrow, but in a decade?
I mean, I really do see, I know we've only been around for 3 years and we're still such a baby, but I do see us being a legacy brand. I said it from the beginning. That is my goal. Rhode's going to go down as one of the greats. I really believe that. At least that's really what I want, and I'm passionate about that. And I do think that we are taking the steps to be a brand that lasts the test of time. And, I don't plan on going anywhere, so yeah.
Thank you so much, Haley. It was great having you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It was so fun.
Well, that marks the end of the Business of Beauty Global Forum 2025.
None of this would have been possible without the contributions of our speakers who generously shared their time and insights. Thank you to all of you.
We also want to thank our partners at Front Row, Unilever Prestige, Citi, McKinsey & Company, Getty Images, Stanley Ranch, as well as our awards partners, the L'Oreal Group and Sephora. We're looking forward to announcing our winners of the Business of Beauty Global Awards tonight at our farewell celebration, so you all have to look forward to that.
The BOF team has done an incredible job working across multiple time zones. We've got our team in London, we've got our team in New York, they're writing raps, they're doing Getty Images, so please join us in congratulating them. None of this would have been possible without them.
And for everyone watching online, if you weren't able to join us for all of our talks, everything is available for on-demand viewing exclusively for our BOF professional members. And with that, I will say until next time, and thank you and farewell from all of us here at Stanley Ranch. Bye-bye.